So, hi everyone to today's after church tea time about grounding into your divinity and become like a true leader and what that really means. And it's a very juicy topic. And the whole Sunday service, I just want to say thank you to everybody who uh, brought their gift to it, right? Starting from the song, the meditation, the card reading, the intro for the sermon, and Danny, of course, for being the minister. It was really balm for the soul, like to listen to all your gifts. And I made also some notes, and I'm looking forward to what Andy and Roxanne, who are today with us, also will share. And maybe you, if you want in the comments, if you want to participate, right, you can ask questions or maybe what you learned about today's Sunday's sermon and what is coming up for you, because it's an amazing topic about becoming who you really are, what your divine self, your divinity, and what that really means. And I feel it will never stop in a way that we get to know ourselves better into our relationship with God and then with our twin flame and with others. And what I really admire about the leaders in our community is how much they are loving, having patience, having compassion, because, right, of course, they worked through the same challenges that we already kind of worked through. And they're being such excellent role models and examples and what it really means to love and to not control like we sometimes see it in the world, or how others perceive power versus force, basically like leadership, right? And then he also shared some things in the sermon about an example, what would be kind of control and what would be love. And yeah, to really dive deeper into it. And so I just want to open the floor and what Andy and Roxanne maybe want to share about their takeaways from today's sermon and service.
Hello. So what I want to share in regarding to what you said, like continue what you were sharing is yeah, that like leadership has always kind of been something that you start with yourself. And in the world, usually people tend to not see it that way. And that's why a lot of control, force, and mismanagement happens here. Misdirection, which is ultimately what a leader does. And I have also experienced this firsthand when I was kind of in leadership positions like years ago, when I had like some controlling patterns. I saw that, hey, actually, the being a leader starts just by feeling your feelings and connecting to others, as Danny was saying. And through that, you dive into vulnerability and you open up to connecting with people, and it's much easier to lead them when you are connected. It's much easier to earn the trust of people when you are connecting to them, and to uh, show people by leading, by being a leading, an example, a role model of a leader. And that usually comes with self-accountability, responsibility. These are like the key elements of being a leader, right? So just want to summarize this thing that at the end of the day, it all comes to being a leader of yourself. And really, this journey that we're in teaches us precisely how to do it step by step with the mirror exercise. And that also like kind of uh, is really helpful because it's not about having power over people. As Danny was saying, it's about bringing value to them and really loving them. And that only comes from a humble place. Uh, so this is why this teaching is so powerful, because we can go to that humble place by loving ourselves and really understanding what leadership is at the core.
Yeah, that's very beautiful. And as you were sharing that, Andy, I feel like, in a sense, everybody in this community who's been studying this work, like, is a leader, because what we're doing here is like crucial to what everyone on this planet needs, right? Is love. And like really learning how to go deep into those places where you feel separate from God. You really need to have like someone you can look up to. And like we all have our leaders, we might also be a leader. But yeah, that's how you like get your HTFU, is by loving and learning from those who have it. And just like always choosing to heal through whatever is coming up, even though it's uncomfortable. I continuously move through that where I'm like invited to either choose ego or love. And even when it feels challenging, yeah, it always feels good to choose love and just move through whatever is in front of you. Yeah, I feel like that's what truly being a leader is. It's just, like you say, humbling yourself and not like pretending that you know it all, just like being yourself, being authentic, and just always claiming the God within and yeah, choosing to love yourself.
Thank you, Roxanne. Andy, like for guiding us deeper there. And yeah, it's really like finding out what your gifts are, right? That you can provide value, and also like how good this feels when we exchange that with our brothers and sisters, so to speak, right? You don't have to know everything or be good in everything. Somebody is good in something, and so you can ask them for support, right? They're living their life purpose, and you help others, and you just can surrender into who you are, right? And like Danny said, it's not about perfection leadership, it's about love. And also like Roxanne was also starting with like feeling your emotions, right? It's so important. And he also like with connecting with others. So I loved when you shared that about your own experiences, that you could connect with people, or that you were leading. And I loved it about Jeff and Shaleia and all our leaders in the community, right? To really share their vulnerable places and what they were already moving through. So to be really relatable. And that is, I think, what I respect a lot, right? And that they are so open and transparent. They don't have to hide anything, or kind of what you see sometimes in the world, or when some are kind of wearing a mask, or are led by fear, so to speak. And that I think, like Roxanne said, right, it's always a choice. You are invited to let go of fear, which just then leads to control and like in the other direction of leading. And to not be afraid, especially to look at these places where we are still afraid. And I just was going deeper today too in my coaching session with my coach, where I found out like where I was still afraid of, and to not be afraid to look at these places. I think that's also what makes like a leader, like very, yeah, respectful, and to face your fears, right? To go into the cave of fear, like in the Twin Flame Ascension School class. Jeff and Shaleia talk about like Star Wars, right? All this hero's journey is about that. And then you just come out and find out, wow, I don't have to be afraid of it. And it's the whole ascension journey, that you will not be afraid of anything anymore, right? It's kind of the end goal, like to perfect union. There will be no upsets anymore, and it's really possible. So we are all just facing our fears. And that is where the path is often, right? Where the fear is. And I was getting aware today of some avoidance tactics I had, kind of tricking myself, or where I allowed kind of ego to trick me. And it was the feeling of shame, or that I wanted to avoid that feeling of shame, or also to accept where I'm at on my journey. Because when you don't accept that, you cannot really grow. So kind of ego wants you to stay where you are, or kind of yeah, not moving through something, right? You have to be really honest and vulnerable on your journey, and to accept where you're at. And it's no judgment in that, right? For example, ego wants maybe to judge you, or you kind of like are failing or something like that, but you're not. And it's safe to learn to accept yourself no matter what. That is the moment when you claim your power back, and then you can move through challenges and like experiences, and then you can share it. It's what all the leaders did in the community too, right? They shared their journey, and so that you can do it too, right? Everybody can move through their own stuff. And that there's no shame, and that shame is not from God. So when you feel guilt or shame, you can know like it's safe to let that go. You never have to feel bad, so to speak, on your journey. Of course, we cannot avoid that, but the moment you are feeling it, you can know God doesn't want you to feel ashamed. You can come to Him with everything, what is on your chest, on your heart, and you are always loved, no matter what. Yeah, that's what I feel right now.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and that reminded me of a recent class that I watched, where a student was saying that in a few years ago, my situation with my twin flame was much better. Like these things in the outside look much better, even though I've been doing this work. Now it doesn't look as good. It doesn't. And Jeff said something really profound that it relates to also what you said, like being your own leader and improving. And as these shame and guilt feelings come up, it's usually because you have increased your standards along the way of yours, and you know more in the spiritual journey because you are going deeper. And what ego does, like, tries to trick you that, you have to feel shame because you're seeing these numb parts to yourself that you weren't seeing before, and you thought that everything was amazing back then, but it was just that you were numb to these places. So
We will come back. Andy, if you can hear us, you're frozen, but we choose connection.
Yeah, I can't hear him.
Yeah. It's a nice picture, by the way. Yeah. Very surrendered. Do you feel something right now, Roxanne, sharing?
Yeah, like it kind of makes me think how I've been moving through it today in coaching actually. It's just been like letting go of victim mentality. And like I'm very aware of that. And I feel like I've been healing that all along since joining the community. But it was still kind of sneaky. And yeah, like being a leader is just about not seeing yourself as a victim, but like knowing the truth of who you really are, right? Like you're powerful, you're divine, and nothing can really like stop you from moving towards your dreams. But yeah, there was just kind of a place in my consciousness where I wasn't like fully believing that I wasn't a victim. And so I feel like that's also like a really important aspect of claiming your leadership is like you're not, yeah, a victim to your circumstances or anything that's happening in your life. And you always have the power to choose love and change whatever you don't like in your life. So yeah, I don't know if that's why this is coming up, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I can really much relate to that, right? We are all going deeper where we find out where we chose victimhood or it felt. So especially as a child, for example, the voice of fear, the voice of ego through others, through authority people around you, that you felt so intimidated by it maybe, or you just wanted to be a good person and you wanted, like Urine, I think, said in the introduction of the sermon that she wanted to play by the rules, right? That you kind of thought that is how you get your good along your journey. And so, of course, we wanted to be like a good person or a good Christian. And so you were feeling like, oh, I'm playing by the rules, like I'm doing everything right. So why is it not working out? Maybe like how I desire to be. Andy's coming back. Just let him in. Yeah, just give him a moment. Hi, Andy. Nice that you're back. Okay, we were just speaking about also what Eurene was sharing a bit in the outro, that we thought like as a child you have to play by the rules or through authority people around you, and that I felt especially intimidated by the voice of fear or of ego when I was judged, and I wanted to be a good child, right, a good girl, and so you were feeling I'm doing everything right, and why do I not get my good or what I want this way? And to learn step by step that we were choosing to be a victim, or that we were choosing fear instead of love, that we were not doing what God expects or wants from us, right? Of course, God knows us and also how to guide us to become our divine selves. And so it's safe to empty your cup and to let go of what you think is right. And it's really like this deep programming. I feel like from the consciousness that we are like the most people in the world are still choosing, which is based on fear. And of course, kind of everybody is doing to their consciousness the best they can in that moment. And when they're teaching you something and they have their own trauma and stuff like that. But to be really open to learn and to being humble what God is showing you, where you're still choosing fear or not loving yourself. Yeah, and the moment kind of we choose to love ourselves and choose our harmonious union, choose our twin flame journey. That's, I think Danny said it in the sermon, that's kind of you automatically choose to be a leader because you lead by example when you're choosing love. It's kind of Jesus was that too, right? You just are yourself, you are your divine self. You don't even have to say something sometimes. You're just authentically and shining your light, basically, right? And then you lead people by example that they can do that too. They are free. It's a lot about freedom, is what I feel, right? To free yourself from fear and from the consciousness and to just follow God's voice and love and to show people like with just being so free. I think it's Albert Camus, Jeff shared that quote once. I have that on my Facebook. Yeah, to become so rebellious kind of in the world, to not allow anybody to control you. And it's really about that. And back then as a child, I would think like, oh my gosh, I'm not following the rules, right? I'm not allowed to do that. And now to learn from God, yeah, you're allowed to be free. And when you're choosing God, you choose freedom. And when you choose ego, that's also how you can determine if you're choosing fear or ego. You will feel like a slave, right? You will not feel free. And that helps me often to get aware of when I'm choosing love or when I'm choosing fear. Andy, do you remember where you cut off?
On my end, I kind of when I was talking about increasing your standard, I don't know how much you heard me talking because I think it was a bit more.
I think we heard that too. Like maybe you remember a bit, like
Yeah.
to share that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, by the way. I was just saying that before you were sharing that sometimes you tend to have this guilt or shame feeling. And I was saying that it's in a class that I watched, Jeff said that it's not because you're not progressing, it's just because you have raised your standard, you have raised your awareness in the journey, and you're seeing like the numbed places that you were not seeing before. So yeah, this is about like recognizing yourself more deeply and respecting yourself as a leader. And yeah, that really brings perspective to seeing the ascension path as not something that you kind of struggle on, but actually really release that mindset that you are struggling. And by actually seeing yourself that, hey, I'm having more awareness and I'm seeing, getting to know more myself. I would rather do this than uh, think that I know everything, you know? And Danny also shared that I actually have it noted here. She said that there is a lot more, as a leader, you have to be humble because there is a lot more that you don't know than you know. And no leader like knows everything because we're all children of God. Only God knows. So that's really like that's really helpful to see it in that way because you also can grow more in your role as a leader. And it doesn't matter what type of leader you are, even in your own union, you can take charge to heal your union. you don't have to wait on your twin flame. That's fun. And so, yeah, just want to share that.
Thank you, Andy, for catching up there. I just felt like, when with the weakness, there was also this quote from Jeff and Shaleia, like where we feel like we are weak, it's just the places where we need to grow the most. So there's no bad feeling needed, right, when you feel weak in some places. And what I really love about my journey is like when I remember when I started, I was very shy, and I still am, of course, in some places, but you really learn to speak about everything, that there's no taboo topic. And especially when you hear through something, then you feel able to share it, and you also understand yourself better. Or like Annie was also saying, like from childhood, what you didn't know before, or now you see it and you don't have to feel ashamed of it. And so you always go deeper in places you would never expect. It's kind of the cool thing also when you do the mirror exercise, right? You end up somewhere completely else, or you're upset with your twin flame about this and this, and then you end up completely in another corner of your consciousness. So it will never get boring with God. Yeah, and it's like what I really love to, that you never have to judge yourself. And I think that's kind of the also a reason, like with the fear-based consciousness in the world, that there's a lot of in consciousness judgment or punishment, and that we release that, because God would never do that, right? And to really learn how loved you are. And I feel the more I learned it, the more I can open up or be vulnerable, the deeper I can go into love. You feel more safer. That's kind of the whole journey about you feel more safer with God, and then you can open up more and feel this is your strength and not a weakness when you're really vulnerable. And that is what I said, like really admire in our leaders, and that I know that are like great examples that are leading with love and with so much compassion and patience. Yeah, I also made like some notes, and I just will check. Yeah, it's really about learning your gift, to bring that to the world, and to find out what your life purpose is, right? So it really doesn't matter where you start your journey. If it's like you want to be with your one true love, or you want to live your life purpose, that are the same blocks, right? It's kind of one journey. And so I also kind of started with my life purpose in a way, even that I was watching more Twin Flame Ascension School, to be honest, in the beginning. But it's like the same blocks about shyness. And I remember I received a reading a few years back that my life purpose would be divine communication. And this is where I have my most blocks. Maybe you experienced that too, that where you feel like this is my thing, or this is my life purpose. That is where we need to go, or to grow kind of the most, but it feels juicy at the same time when you kind of feeling even proud of yourself when you see like how much you have grown. And so I'm also like desire to focus on growth, and that is really by feeling your feelings, feeling all your emotions, not shying away from uncomfortable feelings. And what helped me recently, like to fear them, was when my coach shared, it's also in the book Power versus Force. You can find it on the internet too, right? This kind of form where all the feelings are listed that are possible, kind of like even from the grade 0 till, I don't know, 500 or something, right? When you raise your consciousness, because sometimes I didn't know what I fear right now. And so it felt first like numbness, and to learn to connect with your heart. And because there's a whole lot of range that you can feel. That helped me also to go deeper and to understand myself better, and to put it into words, where especially as a child, it just was shutting down or felt frozen in some moments. And so maybe it can help you too, like to feel your emotions, to just have them listed in front of you and check like how I'm feeling right now. Yeah.
Yeah, something that you shared, Chrissy, that I really liked is sometimes like your life purpose will be something that maybe you've been really resistant to going. Like maybe you desire it, but maybe you're also just like, no way, there's no way this is for me. And I feel like, yeah, growing up like as a child, I always felt the call to be a leader in some way. But I also like was mixed up with leader being like you have to be super like, yeah, maybe more that power control or because that's what I saw a lot. And I was like, well, that's not me. Like, I don't want to be that. But then like when with the teachings, you realize that leading is really just you being yourself and relaxing into yourself and like being authentic. And I really like what Danny said was like, you don't have to identify with anything in particular. It's not like, oh, I'm a school teacher or I'm this or I'm that. Like you can even just lead anywhere in your life, in your family, in your career, in your relationship, your union. So then like, yeah, it feels a lot more relaxing and you get to just be who you are and who God created you to be because ultimately when you're leading, you're just letting God move through you. So yeah, it's a lot more peaceful than what I thought being a leader was. But yeah, it's really safe for you to like step into your calling, whatever that is, and just start with like what's right in front of you. You don't have to like, do your entire life purpose overnight. It's just like one thing at a time. Yeah, and it's just about choosing God in every area, even if it feels like, yeah, it doesn't feel good at first. Yeah.
Yeah, I really love that. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Um, yeah, I felt like also in childhood, right, being a leader felt like you have a lot of burdens or responsibility would feel like a burden. And on your journey, you just learn it means freedom. Because when you don't plan your time or what you want to do with it, it's like even the book Outwitting the Devil. And like I can also just recommend it. Our leaders recommended that in the first place, and it's really successful people, right? Because when you don't plan kind of like what you're doing, even if you plan free time for yourself, right, or to fill your cup up, ego will take charge of all the empty spaces in your consciousness. And so being a leader means now I'm in charge together with God. I decide, I'm self-determined, and I choose my freedom here and what I want to do with my precious time. And so it's not a burden, it really is freedom, right? When you take responsibility for yourself. And in truth, you're just responsible for yourself, right? You can just do your part in a way, no matter where God is placing you, or you have, for example, a leader position. And of course, you want to lead by example, but also, like we learn, leadership means to bring others into their power. So you're not God. You don't have to do God's job, right? You're just loving them. So you provide, yeah, value, like Danny said, and it feels so good. It's kind of like this. I would even say mother father energies of God that we kind of become, right, by embodying the teachings of union more and more, because we parent ourselves. And often, for example, people around us, you will feel that the more you love yourself, um, we are a lot of immature, right? And sometimes people also didn't learn boundaries. And so now you feel like more mature, especially spiritually, like in some places, and you can teach others by leading by example how to respect yourself, how to honor your time, your energy, and setting boundaries, right, out of peace and not of fear, right, would be control, like Danny said in the sermon. And so just being yourself and honoring, respecting you, and that means God in every moment. I feel that's it's very important to learn because the more kind of you ascend or the more you love yourself and you shine your light, of course, kind of others would want also to take from your energy, right? But also to bring them into their power, kind of guiding them back to God, right? You can do that too. You don't need me for that. And I feel that is what true leadership means, to bring everybody into their power. And that's also my desire in my heart, right? Peace is the biggest power, to help people to come to a place of peace. And that's what I deeply like desire as my gift, so to speak, to the world, no matter how that looks like, right? In everybody's life, like what their life purpose is. And yeah, I'm also love to see others also around me to come more and more into their leadership or their life purpose and sharing their gifts more and more. And I feel we will never stop growing there. Because the more we hear fear, right, we are finding out what we are capable of doing, where we don't even know ourselves yet, what we are capable of doing, right, with God together. And especially like in the collective, right, together as one. So yeah, it's an amazing journey.
Yeah, I really love what you said. And in my opinion, it's like there is leading, and I feel like that leading and that leader keyword has a hidden keyword in front of it, which is like spiritual leading, spiritual leader. Because ultimately, I feel like that's the divine leadership. And what you were saying is about empowering people and loving them and shining the light, your light as a leader to them, and so they can see their own light and they can grow their light. So they can feel empowered as well to grow in their leadership and see that they are powerful. Because leadership, this is like the key thing that people in the world like don't get it right, is that a leader isn't supposed to like have power over someone. It's supposed to bring out the power in people instead. So there's like this fine detail that uh, where like this fine detail where ego comes, and usually people kind of don't get it right. They don't really understand the point of being a leader. And this is why I was saying that it's about divine leadership, and that's in this community we're learning like the whole picture of what it really is. Yeah.
Very nice, Andy. Yeah, I just feel like you learn to never give up, right? Like every successful person, right, they failed so often, like on their journey, and the key is just they never gave up, right? You don't see often what they were moving through or the challenges they had on their journey. And so, yeah, to learn, especially to allow God to be your cheerleader, to have also this inner self-talk with yourself, to really encourage yourself and to keep going. And I think that's kind of the parenting we are doing right for ourselves. And then we are able to provide it to others so that they can learn that too, to be having a loving self-talk with yourself. And I feel that's often how we uproot things in our consciousness, or where we get aware of where we are not loving ourselves, or how we judge ourselves, or feel not enough, or whatever might go on. And then to become aware of that and love yourself there. And that, yeah, that, like Jeff always says, keep going, right? It's really about that. It's every day is another day, and you stand up and you give your best, and that's always enough. Especially I learned like often like when we got educated, it's this conditional, which is not really love, right? But conditional love. And to learn from God, you're really loved for who you are and not for what you are doing. And when you really integrate that, oh my gosh, I'm already loved, I don't have to prove myself in the world, so to speak, then you want to do it freely. You want to freely share your gift, and not because you think, oh, when I'm doing this, then I will receive attention or approval or something like this, right? You leak so much energy when you try to do it that way. And so, yeah, I also remembered myself more often lately that I'm loved for who I am. My coach also helped me with that, to really relax into that. in every moment. And then to just, when you overflow with this love and this joy, you just want to share it with others. You cannot hold back, basically. You're overflowing with that energy, and that's viral, how you say, right? Contagious. It's like lighting a candle, and all the other candles are also like getting fired. Yeah, it's my passion, like to just being yourself, being silly, maybe, right? Being funny and embodying that and being with God. And of course, we all have our unique relationship with God. And sometimes I laugh out loud so much when God is showing me something, right? And he has a lot of humor, and to not take everything so seriously. And Danny shared that too, you learn to not take things personally. And I think that's also what a great leader has, and then you can hold space for others, like while they're maybe even moving through upsets, or because you already worked through it. And of course, the more you can hold space for somebody, you're not afraid of their tantrums, you're not afraid of conflict. That's also what I'm healing, like to not be afraid. Of course, it's conflict first in myself, and with ego's voice. And so when you're not afraid to look there anymore, you're also not afraid of conflict on the outside, because you never have to let go of God. You never have to let go of your peace. Ego tries to pull you into a trauma, or right, to pull you away from God. But you can learn through conflict to be solution oriented instead of like, right, so feeding the problem, so to speak. So yeah, it's kind of easier than we think. Of course, there's a lot of healing involved into that, right? That you can feel so peaceful while being in challenging situations. But you really feel, wow, I have grown here. Like, and that feels very good.
Yeah, I really just feel like being a leader is like what's coming up for me is like it's about taking charge of your life, and like you get to be the driver, and like you know that God is ultimately the one driving, but like you know that you have the power to like choose where you want to go, right? Like do you want HTFU or do you not? Or so yeah, it's just about like loving yourself through all of that and showing others that it's also possible for them. And yeah, I love something that you mentioned as well, Chrissy, was about like your schedule even. And like even if your schedule isn't like that's still something I continuously work through. But like yeah, if you don't decide what your schedule looks like ego will, right? So even just like being responsible, taking responsibility for like your time and your energy and setting boundaries to anything that doesn't feel good, like you're the driver of your life. Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to check, like, does somebody has like the comments? I can also check, like maybe we have a question there. Yeah, maybe India is taking a look. Just, I feel complete so far. Just want to make sure if there's not a question coming up.
No, we don't have any questions.
So how are you both feeling? You also feel complete, or is there something in your heart that you want to, for the last words?
I feel complete. I feel it was a great discussion. A lot of things to process as well.
Right. I loved it very much. Yeah, thank you so much for joining, connecting. It's always a pleasure, and you learn so much, and God for all of us. And thank you everybody for watching. And I also invite you to, when you want to spread the teachings of union, and it's really bringing you into your power and your divinity and who you really are, I invite you to donate or tithe. And you find that on our website, unionism.org. You can also see all the Sunday services and every little part of it, even I think the meditations and the card readings individually. And yeah, so just take good care, everybody. Like, have a nice Sunday, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon again. Bye bye.